join us. And today we're very fortunate to have, he was our 2018 Miami Realtors Chairman of the Board, and he's on our corporate board still today. He has incredible service to our community and to South Florida real estate. And I should mention that he is a state certified appraiser since 1981. So we're getting incredible perspective. George Jalil, how are you doing today, George?
I'm doing great, Chris. Happy to be with you and happy to be with our members. And it's a great time to be Miami.
Yes, excellent. All right, so we have a lot to talk about today in the next hour. So thank you guys for logging on. And so, George, the first question I got for you is why is this so important? Why, realtors, they just want to sell houses. Why is it so important to use real estate statistics and trends for realtors?
Well, that's a great question. And of course, I'm going to be wearing my realtor hat and my appraiser hat. And even though most of our members are not appraisers and wouldn't be interested in being an appraiser, it's really good for all our members to understand where appraisers come from too. So statistics and stats are something that can help you when you're doing a listing presentation, when you are working with a buyer, because the buyer is going to look to you as a professional, wants to know not only what is a house worth, which a lot of our members know how to do a CMA, but suppose somebody were to ask you, hey, what's a bathroom worth in Kendall? Or what's a garage worth in Miami Gardens? And these are things that appraisers always have to answer. And it's good for realtors to learn these statistics. And I know we're going to talk later about SunStats and Marketel, but the Miami Association provides what I think is an underutilized wealth of knowledge that our members should take advantage of, because I will tell you from personal experience, especially when I was the chairman, I had people calling me not just from the Miami Herald, but from national and international news wires wanting to know our statistics, because our statistics are the gold standard. I'll also tell you something else that most realtors don't realize. The Appraisal Institute looks at the MLS and the data that's generated by realtors as the gold standard for doing appraisals. In other words, when you have a sale that you've checked and verified the statistics through the Miami Association, the Appraisal Institute will allow you to use that, and lenders will allow you to use it. If it's a sale that has not gone through the MLS, I cannot use it as an appraiser, because I can't verify what I can verify through the Miami Association. So most realtors don't realize that, but the association and its stats are very, very good. And I hope we're going to have a chance to go through that.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, great points. And, to be honest, I didn't know that. So, that's why I love talking with our leaders. Every time, we do this, I learn something. So thank you, George. All right, so let's take a look at our agenda today. We're going to go through the May 2022 stats, which just got released to the media. And most importantly, we're going to be hearing George's perspective. You just got a taste of that incredible expertise, and he's going to help you guys out there. All right, so let's go over some of the. All right, this is a monthly series on news release day, which we already said. And actually here we have our schedule. Our news release days usually comes out around the 21st of each month, so around this time. And leveraging stats to boost your business is being recorded. If you can't stay for the whole thing, it's going to be on MiamiRealtorsLive.com. That's our 24/7 video library. If you're not accessing that as a Miami member, please do. And so this is if you guys haven't bookmarked this website, please do me a favor. If you can, sfmarketintel.com. This is where we put all of our stats, all of our stat reports for May 2022 for all of the counties in South Florida are there right now. You have your infographics are posted there. You have our market focused video, 1-minute videos are posted there. We have our international studies also there. So a lot, we try to focus on updating this every day. So if you haven't bookmarked that, sfmarketintel.com. Okay, George, so a lot is going on since the last time we had this webinar. If you look at the stock market is down. Crypto has fallen. Inflation continues to be high. The Fed is making aggressive moves. The 10-year yield is high. But most importantly, mortgage rates are over 6%. They've gone from 3% in January to now 6%. So, George, the first question off the bat, as a realtor, how are you discussing these mortgage rates with clients, and what is the impact you're seeing?
Yeah, so let's take the hardest, most scariest stat right from the beginning, that interest rates are going up. Oh my God. Well, first of all, let me just double down on what you said about SF Market Intel. Everybody needs to go to that site, and also the Florida Realtor site, SunStats, which we'll be talking about later. You can drill down to a zip code and find out everything. That's why I say, when the Miami Herald wants to know, hey, George, in this zip code, how many buyers were all cash? Market Intel will tell you. Our association has that data. So we're the repository of amazing information when it comes to real estate. So getting back to the before we started this, I was telling Chris that when I was 21 years old in 1977, I got my real estate license. Interest rate was 8%, and the market was humming. So all of a sudden, I became an appraiser in 1981. And in 79 and 1980, some of you may have read that Jimmy Carter was president. There was a gasoline embargo. So it was different than what we have with gas now, but it was similar, that it was putting huge pressure on the market. So the Fed had to come in and actually raise interest rates. But the interest rates went to 13, 14, 15%. But the lenders in the market is so flexible. They started coming out with products called reverse mortgage, and also different models that they could buy down interest rates. We're nowhere near that now. Our interest rates right now, I would say, if you go back 30 years, it's probably still lower than the median. I don't know if you've ever checked that, or if you are able to check that for our members, but at 6%, the interest rate is still okay. And it's probably, I think, 5.5 or 5 on a 15-year mortgage. But the big difference now is the demand. And I don't want to get too far, because I know you've got some questions about the demand. But as far as the interest rate goes down, there's ways to buy down the interest rate. People are coming in with more cash from other parts of the country, and they're buying properties with 20, 30, 40, 50% down. So that not only that brings their payments down, but they can also buy down the interest rate. So if the interest rate is 6%, they could go to a lender, pay a little more in closing costs, and bring the interest rate down to 5 or to 4.5. I'm not a mortgage broker, so this is out of the scope of this class, but you can talk to your favorite mortgage lender. Now, one thing that I have to tell you about interest rates, and I have to thank the Miami Association and the Florida Realtors. For a few years, we've been going to Tallahassee asking them to do something for our hometown heroes. And 2 weeks ago, and everybody should check into this, because it will directly impact you and your ability to sell property. About 2 weeks ago, the Hometown Hero program started. You can Google that. And basically, just to tell you real quickly, even if the interest rate is high, somebody can save up to $25,000 in their closing costs. Now, closing costs, and again, I'm not a mortgage broker, but typically closing costs are about 6%. So on a $500,000 house, 6% is $30,000. On a $400,000 house, 6% is $24,000. The Hometown Heroes will give them interest-free up to $25,000, and they don't have to pay it back until they sell the home or until the end of the mortgage. And I want to thank Ana Maria Rodriguez, who is our local senator and also works for the Miami Association. She's amazing. Really, both House, the Senate, Congress, and the governor's office, they all pushed for this, and now it has become a reality. And realtors were the ones that spearheaded this, and now you guys can provide these loans for your customers. The only caveat is that it's for hometown heroes. There are 50 different professions. You can imagine that it's first responders, policemen, but there's also teachers, nurses, physical therapists. There's 50 different professions that qualify, and it's a great, great program. And again, this directly helps to mitigate the raise in interest rates, because when the interest rate was 3%, 4% 5 months ago, we didn't have this hometown hero program. So that's a little side thing I put in there. But yes, interest rates are going, and I think they're going to probably stay at around 6%. This is my prediction until the end of the year, and then we'll see where inflation goes.
Yeah, no, great points on hometown heroes. Yes, and I should probably put that in our presentation for next time. But no, great points, and actually, thank you to Eva who put the link for hometown heroes in the chat. Thank you for doing that.
Awesome. Thank you. I didn't see that. Thanks.
Yeah, so this is impact of rising mortgage rates. This is some of the notes I put down. It's going to have an impact. Lower home sales, might lose the marginal home buyer, more days in the market, cooling of the growth rate of pricing. Not yet, but eventually, price will continue to rise with the low inventory, and total inventory, we hope, will begin to grow. And we're beginning to see signs of it, and you're going to see in the stats.
Yes.
All right. So this is just what George was talking about earlier, just this shifting market in terms of where we were, during the COVID housing market, the last 2 years to now, some of the points. And this is just, I also wanted to highlight this, that the 10-year yield has the highest level since 2011. And we went over the mortgage rates. And so, George, this is one, I found this stat. I thought it was interesting. Distribution of origination mortgage rate among Florida homeowners. 43.5% of Florida homeowners have sub-4 mortgage rates. So I just wanted, what is the impact, to knowing this stat, for realtors? Would these homeowners be less likely to move now with rates at 6, or it won't impact our market like that?
Great question, Chris. And my members asked me, look, what do all these numbers mean, and how is it going to affect when I sit down to do a listing presentation? So I'm hoping that in all these numbers that we're going to be giving you, I hope that you can go away from this with at least something valuable, that when you're sitting with a seller or a buyer, that you can help them make a decision and, of course, grow your business. I believe that the biggest effect that you're seeing is in the refinancing sector. Most of the people that have these and it's not surprising, because if the interest rates have been, lower than 3%, lower than 4% over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of refinancing, and it's been very, very busy, and people have, a lot of them have improved their homes, and they've made their homes more valuable. So they've taken out these low equity loans, and they've put in new kitchens, new bathrooms. They've put in swimming pools. They've been able to afford that. And that might be triggering a little bit of the low inventory, because think about it. If I 2 or 3 years ago put in a brand new kitchen, brand new bathrooms, brand new floors, impact windows, and I borrowed money to put in a pool, I want to stay and enjoy it a little bit. So unless I'm relocating, that's probably having an impact on some of our low inventory, which of course that will go back to normal. But I think the biggest impact of that sub 4% that you were talking about, Chris, is on the refinance market. So I think what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to have a lot more of our mortgage broker friends visiting our offices and sitting down with us to have coffee and talking about their great programs, because they're less busy with refinancing.
Yeah, excellent. Great points. Okay. And so, George, I wanted to go over this. This was Realtor.com. They normally do a housing forecast once a year, but they said, no, this year is different, because of the rising rates. They said we're going to do a mid-year update. So this is their forecast for the rest of 2022. And they say that mortgage rates will average around 5% throughout the year, by 5.5 by the end of the year. Sale price appreciation will be up 6.6%, and we'll talk about why prices will continue rising. National home sales will be down 6.7%, but it's going to be the second best home sales year in the last 15 years. And take a look at for sale inventory. They are forecasting up 15%. George, what are your thoughts on these?
No, I saw this, and I actually agree with it, and I love the fact that they brought this for everybody to be able to see it. The mortgage rates. Okay, so this is nationwide. Florida is especially South Florida is very, very unique, and we'll talk about that. But if you look at this as a nationwide, what they're basically saying and they're agreeing is that they feel that by the end of the year, okay, we're going to have an average of 5% interest rate, and that's an average, which means it's 6% now, and maybe it was 3%, 4% at the beginning of the year. So I agree with that. Median. Listen, we can go through anything, Chris, as long as it's done slowly in moderation. So whether it's interest rates or whether it's inflation or whether it's prices of home, what we don't want ups and downs. We don't want these peaks and valleys. We want it to go as slow as possible so that everything can work and get caught up. It's just like if you're trying to lose weight, don't lose too much weight too quickly because then you gain it back. So median sales price depreciation, 6.6%. I got to tell you, that is fantasy in Miami because most areas in South Florida have experienced between 20 and 29%. Now, there are some areas and some properties that have gone up very little, maybe only 0.5% per month, which would be 6%. But I want everyone to, when you get a chance, go to Matrix and visit on the right-hand side. There's a little tab that says Market Reports. And when you click on Market Reports and you go down to I think it's the last one or the second last one, it says 1004 MC. And this isn't a class on the 1004 MC, but the 1004 MC stands for 1004 Market Condition. And that's a report that every appraiser has to put into their appraisal. And the Miami Association and the MLS has provided that for our members. So we can do it ourselves. And this is very powerful because when you sit down in front of a seller or a buyer, you can drill down into their neighborhood and say, okay, your neighborhood, maybe Miami has gone up 28%, but your neighborhood went up only 2% per month. And here's the information. I got it from the Miami MLS. So it's a great program. I know that our fantastic Miami trainers train on that specific program. And I hope you guys will get a chance to see a webinar on it. It's called 1004 MC, and it's in Market Reports in Matrix. That 6.6 is nationwide average. So it really is not too meaningful because we're all about little neighborhoods and not really a whole country. National home sales down 6%. You know, whenever you hear down, oh, something is down. But this is actually kind of what we want to start happening, that the home sales are going to be kind of leveling off to being what I would consider not cooling down. I would consider it a hot normal. In other words, the market should not be, the sales should not outpace the supply. Because when you have that, you have the situation that you have now when our members talk to me and they go, everything, I can't find a house for my customer, you know, there's no inventory. So this is actually not bad news. But again, it's nationwide, so we really can't go by that. And of course, for sale inventory up 15%. Hey, that's good, but I don't know if that's Miami. So it's a good article though, and gives you a lot of thought.
Yeah, no, great points. Yeah, and we'll talk about a little bit more about, you know, the Fed raising the rates. It's about bringing balance, right? Bringing balance to the market. It can't just be, you know, all the way on the seller side.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So let's go into the stats. And the stat that I'm sure the Miami Herald is going to pick up on is median sale price. And so let's take a look. These are fresh numbers that we released today. Like George was saying, up 15% for single family, up to 575. and look at condos up 27.7% year over year. That's Miami-Dade County. And George, one of the questions I had was, with mortgage rates rising, there's a lot of talk in real estate about when are prices going to fall. And here in Miami, it's a different story, right? Because we have our inventory is so low. But if you could talk about that, what do you think as we look at towards the end, the rest of this year about prices?
Great question. I know that the next slide you have is also Palm Beach and Broward, which, by the way, the demand for Miami has been kind of like bleeding into, I shouldn't use that word, but it's a good way of bleeding into Broward and into Palm Beach because their numbers they've been going way up. So, Broward is beautiful. There's so many areas, Pembroke Pines and Plantation and Coral Springs. There's so many great areas up there. They're really like, they could be considered a suburb of Miami. So they're getting the same bump that we get. And what I wanna say about prices, if you go back to the last, that one. Okay, in most neighborhoods, and I'm going to be careful when I say this, when I go to do an appraisal, I have to analyze what has the trend been the last 3 months, the last 6 months, and the last year to date. And then I have to come up with a per month increase. And again, my wonderful members that are listening, you can do this just like an appraiser on the 1004 MC. That 15% for most neighborhoods is pretty accurate. In certain areas, and condos, it's up to 20, 25%. Very rare that it's going 29%. But 15% is a pretty good number of what we've been experiencing. And that honestly has been for the last, not just May, but it's been more or less like that for the last couple of years. So how far, how much more can it go? Okay, we all know that this is self-leveling. At a certain point, prices can't go up because people can't afford it. Or is that true? Because what we have in Miami and South Florida is we have a situation where we are the victims, the good victims of our own success. Because of the Miami Association, trying to keep the insurances, which have gone up, but they're not like other places in the country. State taxes, we don't have a business tax. All of these things that have always made South Florida wonderful. Now you throw in the mix the pandemic and people being able to work from home, and it's kind of the perfect Miami smoothie where everything is mixed in there that people say, wow, I never thought I'd be able to move to Miami, and now I can, and they come down here and they see a house for $800,000. They go, wow, this is a bargain. So my answer to you is when the demand for South Florida levels off, that's when the prices will start leveling off. And honestly, I'm hoping it's going to be soon because I want all our members to know something else that's very important. The Miami demographics is changing right before our eyes as we sleep. People that sell their homes in Miami are not buying in Miami. They're moving out. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that the demographics is changing, and we need to be aware of that. So when we sit with our seller, we can tell our seller, look, chances are a person from Miami is not going to buy your house. So what does that mean? Well, I have to get on the social medias. I have to use the tools that the association gives me and tells me, okay, in this neighborhood, I'm in Hollywood. Where are people coming to buy? Oh, they're coming from Montreal. Okay, that's where I have to market. I have to sit with my broker and say, look, I want to do some marketing to people in Montreal. I'm just giving an example because that's the first thing that came to my head. But you've got people coming, it used to be outside the country, but it's not like that anymore. There are people that are buying homes in Miami without even seeing the homes. They just do like a FaceTime, and they're buying them from Chicago, from New Jersey, from New York, from San Francisco, all of California. A lot of them are going to Texas also, but we're South Florida has a reputation of being more diversified, and our diversification is one of our strengths that we have almost. You walk down Lincoln Mall. When I walk down with my wife in Lincoln Mall, I can hear every language in the world being spoken, and that is something that you don't see if you go to another part of the country. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, wow, a lot of great points, and I love that diversity. I love Miami's unlike any other city in the
Right.
United States that you could hear those languages. Really amazing. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Okay, so let's I put this chart together here. This is actually from NAR. These are national it's a national chart. For the last time, 2 times rates rose, what was the impact? And we have already touched about this. Demand fell, sales decreased, home prices didn't fall. Last time we saw rates increase like this was 2018 and 2019. Okay, so here's a look. Another question that we seem to get a lot on these monthly webinars is, hey, is this like 2008? Are we going to see a crash, or what happened in 2005 to 2008? And so these were some of the differences that I've seen in the two markets. But George, I wanted to get your take on how it's different, how 2022 is different.
Right. So I love this question because I get this question a lot, and I also get it a lot as an appraiser. I do a lot of appraisals for the veterans, and I love the veterans. They're so thankful. They're just great people, and they ask me the same question. And one of the things that makes me feel bad is sometimes I have REO agents from years ago, and they come and they go, listen, it's right around the corner. The foreclosures are right around the corner. I go, look, there are agents that are getting their license today that will never know what the initials REO means, at least for another 10 years. And I can explain that to you. There is a ton of equity over the last years in our real estate. There are very few people that own real estate that have not had to put any money down, that don't have any kind of stake in the games. In 2008, 2007, I was sitting in a barbershop, my favorite barbershop, and a UPS driver came in with his uniform, and he sat down and he was talking to my barber, and the barber, I said, hey, did you close on that condo you were? He goes, yeah, I closed on my third one, and now I'm closing on another one. And then the barber says to him, oh, I just closed on my third townhouse. And I said, this is not good. All of these people were buying properties, not only with no money down, and maybe some of the members weren't in real estate back then, but lenders were giving 110% financing. In other words, they were giving you more than the price of the property, and it was stated income. So all you had to do was, there was no verification of your income. You just had to put what your income was. So the number one reason why we're not going to have that happen now is that in 2010, and you put it as the first part up there, we have since 2010 the Dodd-Frank bill, and it is if you ever read that, it's almost impossible to get a loan if you don't really deserve a loan. And unfortunately, so many people bought properties and then they didn't have any equity in the properties, and they just let the properties go. So if you drive around town and you try to find a foreclosure, it's like looking for a pterodactyl. I mean, it just doesn't exist. There's very, very few REOs, and that's a fantastically good thing. People are not losing their homes. And if someone does have a personal issue where they lose their job and they can't afford their home, and they bought it a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they can put it on the market, with their favorite Miami realtor, and they can sell it and make a profit. So unless you are upside down like you are when you usually buy a car, you're not going to go into foreclosure. So I think that's the most important answer to all of these questions. The high credit stress, all of that turned into a big mess, but the lenders learned from that, and Congress passed some very strict laws. So I don't think we're going to repeat that history. I hope.
Yeah, no, I don't believe so either. Okay, great job, George. And also, there was a question there in the chat about relocation stats. I put in a couple links if you guys want to take a look at that.
Cool.
Okay, and so this is exactly what George was talking about. Take a look at the mortgage originations by credit score. They are high. The foreclosures, bankruptcies. Here's the data that George was talking about. And U.S. homeowners are in good shape when you look at debt service as a percentage of disposable income. There you go. And okay, so let's take a look at historical Miami-Dade median sales prices, and you could see the jump there. And really, that's what George is talking about. Perfect storm. Everything came together. Now we have low inventory, so prices have nowhere to go but up. So that's why we're looking to get some more inventory. And affordability. These were some notes that I have put together. But another great note that George mentioned earlier was hometown heroes. Hometown heroes. That's a great thing that the state has passed. Yeah, and actually, George, I had a question here for you here. What about you talked about, all the New York, California, Texas that are moving down here, that not only moving here, but they're also bringing their businesses. And what doesn't get talked about is how the wages and the income in South Florida has increased. What are your thoughts about that, especially when you get questions about affordability?
Right. So a question that I was asked, and I really couldn't answer it. Right. And maybe you might have some thoughts on this. The people that come down from, let's say, Chicago, and now their boss says, "Hey, you can work in Miami." How is that income counted? Is that a Chicago income? Is that a Miami income? I get different answers when I ask that question. Again, I'm not an economist and I don't really know, but that's kind of an interesting problem, or not problem, but an interesting situation that we didn't have before, that when you have thousands of people moving into one area and they're living in that area and they're spending money in that city, but their income is coming from a company that they work for in another place, I would imagine that the income is where you live. So again, that's just me. But the affordable housing issue is across the United States. So what's been driving that partially, and unfortunately, I don't see really a lot of good news in the future, is that the price of new home construction has gone up because inflation. So wood, concrete, roofing, everything costs more. So now it's costing more to build. So now it's costing more to buy a new home. Down here, D.R. Horton and Lennar down in Homestead, prices still seem to be pretty good because they bought the land many, many years ago. Some of the land that Lennar is building on now, they bought it before the last crash, like 15, 20 years ago, and they just held on to it. So you can still buy a home, under 300,000, under 400,000, brand new home with a garage, and so you can still find areas. Properties in Miami can range from 65K, one bedroom. Oh, okay. So we're talking about condos in a 55 plus community. Yeah, that's an interesting thing because these are fixed income folks, and I don't really think that the prices of those properties are going to be going up a lot. But again, everything depends on how many people are going to be moving into Miami and what are the demographics. So far, unlike many years ago, I remember before South Beach was South Beach, people would come from all over the country that were older than 55, and that was a retirement community. I don't know if you remember. I don't think you remember that, Chris. You weren't born back then, but so I don't know how many retirees are going to be moving into South Florida. I think they're still going to find great places throughout Florida, because Florida, as we know, is a very long peninsula, and wherever you go, you're not far from the beach, no matter where you go in Florida. But as far as Miami, I think the demographics, like I said earlier, are changing, and I think that the age groups and the type of industries are changing from what we have been used to here in Miami. And then you were talking about 150 million for a Key Biscayne estate. Well, in appraising, there's something called outliers. And when when you're doing an appraisal and you're looking to see what the median is, you use the median. You don't use the average, because the average will take like Shaq's house that was, whatever, how many millions it was, and then it puts it into that average, and you get a skewed number. So, yeah, some of this, Key Biscayne and South Beach and certain areas in Broward and even Palm Beach, there's some super properties there that are just going through the roof, and I don't know if that's going to slow down anytime soon. Affordable housing is an issue, but honestly, more in Miami than it is in the rest of the state. You can still go to places around the state and buy a home. I have one of my agents, a Miami member. He might be on the Zoom today. Cliff Felder. He moved 6 months ago, sold his house in Pembroke Pines, and he's living, I believe, up in Daytona. And he's still a Miami member. So he's people can take what they've worked so hard here and lived for 20 years in their home and take that money and still buy a really nice, affordable house in the rest of the state. But let's look at the flip side of that. People are still coming down, buying these homes that are not affordable. So by definition, we can't say that they're not affordable, because the market that's buying them is affording them. What we can say is that realtors have been getting an increase in salary for the last 4 or 5 years. And maybe they don't think of it that way, but every time prices go up, so does our base pay. So that's my thoughts on that.
Interesting way to think. I hadn't really thought about that. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. See, when I do an appraisal, I get paid a fee. Realtors get paid a commission. That's why I like being a realtor too.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide here. This was a slide that I found interesting. National housing prices have only fallen twice in the past 35 years. So that's a little perspective. And this was a chart I put together. I don't know your thoughts on this, but why buy a home now? Most people see their incomes rise over time while that mortgage payment stays fixed. You can refinance. They're talking about the recession could be coming next year. We'll see. Rents, by the way, keep rising. Home prices, they could keep rising. And most importantly, housing is not like stocks and bonds. It's a place to live. And it's a place for shelter. I don't think a lot of people don't think about housing like that.
No, and as I said before we started, we were talking. I was talking with Chris before we started the webinar, and my son just bought a house in Atlanta, or he went under contract. He had to make like 18 offers over 6 months before he was able to buy it, because he lives in Atlanta. But I will tell you what I tell my 5 older children and my numerous nephews and nieces. Real estate has been and remains the foundation of wealth for building for the middle class. That is not up for debate. It just is. And unlike crypto or gold or an expensive bottle of wine that costs a lot of money and you want to save it in your cellar and then sell it, if you drink the wine, you lost your investment. So a house you can buy, you can live in it, you can enjoy it. And I'm going to have something else to say on the importance of our industry and the importance of realtors. So I'll stop here on that question because it's attached to this question.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And actually, one of the articles that I saw today, I'm actually going to put the link in the chat. The title is U.S. Home Equity Highest on Record, 27.8 trillion. So that, a lot of, media doesn't talk about that. The other side about how home price appreciation and how much equity homeowners have
Right.
have enjoyed.
Especially if they keep the home long term. One of my agents just listed a property in Kendall, in a very nice area in Kendall. It's a house on an acre and 4,000 square feet. When the people bought it 25 years ago, they were a young couple, and they paid $375,000 for it. It was a lot of money back in 1998, and they worked hard. They enjoyed the house. They enjoyed the pool. Their kids grew up in it. Now they're retiring. They're putting the house up for sale, 2.7. So if you're asking me, was that a good investment at 375,000? I think it was. And I don't know if you could beat that with stocks or with gold, or I'm sure Elon Musk could do better. But for us average people, buying a home, enjoying our home, having our children in our home, and then being able to sell it at a profit, that's what makes us a great country. When they say the American dream, so many people say that word, but it's so true that this is so important. And that's why when I hear people say, like, I have one nephew that he's against home. He says, I'll never buy a house. I don't think it's worth it. It doesn't make sense. I go, look, I don't know what YouTubes you've been watching, but it's obviously the wrong information. And, maybe when you get a little older, you'll learn and it won't be too late. But there are people out there that feel that way. But it's fantastic to hedge against inflation is the long story of it.
No, it's interesting. And actually, I wish I had someone in my life like you, who had told me that years ago, because I bought my first house at, I believe, 38. And so, yes.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, that's still super young. Come on.
All right. Okay, so closed sales. What are the sales numbers for May 2022? This has gone to already released to the media in the last hour or so. But take a look at number 10. These are total sales, Miami-Dade County. So yes, even with rising mortgage rates, it is the 10th highest total sales month in Miami-Dade County history. Look at that. And look, all 10 in the last 2 years. So these are the numbers.
Fantastic.
Yeah, these are the numbers. So year over year, it's down 9.7%. Single family are down. But again, George, this is in comparison to 2021. When you remember the mortgage rates were at 3%, you had more inventory. So
right.
Still an incredible month.
Very good.
And so I'm taking a look here at luxury sales. Luxury sales for condos are up 8.8%. Single family luxury is down 5.1% year over year. And here's a look at Broward. And you're going to see a theme here. Sales are down. But again, it's in comparison to 2021, which is incredible.
Right.
Beach, Martin.
And by the way, Chris, even though the sales are down, and I haven't actually sat down and crunched these numbers, but it would be interesting to note that even though the sales are down, the volume, the dollar volume of the sales are up, which means that there was a net increase in the realtors' commissions. So even though maybe they sold a couple of less homes, they made the same amount, if not more, because the prices were going up.
Yeah, no, great point. And we're going to get into the dollar volume. And yes, some markets, the dollar volume has increased. And so these were some of the talking points. Yes, what's driving Miami real estate demand? This is George, you had mentioned this earlier, but the people coming from New York, from high tax, high density areas, And yeah, that was one of the questions I had for you.
Yeah.
You have mentioned the appeal of property as an inflation hedge um, in this high inflationary era. How important you had mentioned this? How important is real estate?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously I'm biased, but it's just beyond an argument to say that real estate isn't the premier to hedge against inflation. And I didn't mention before, but we're seeing a lot of people coming around the country, specifically from the tech industry, because they're an industry that are very used to working remote, and now as a perk, large companies like Apple and Google are offering, hey, you can work from home as a way to get top talent. So we're getting, you know, like I said, a whole different demographic of engineers and financial people that we haven't seen here historically. And I think it's just going to add to the diversity, which makes it fantastic.
Yes. And George, actually, I wanted to get back to there was a question here from Rich Candia, and let's go ahead and go to this question here. He's asking, what is the impact of investor purchases buying huge inventories of neighborhoods and even new construction?
Yeah, that's not really a good thing. We haven't really seen it in Miami as much as in other parts of the country. I know that Zillow tried to do that. They got out of it. They didn't find it to be. They just didn't think that was worth their or good model for them. They were into the buying and selling. So I think you're always going to have these companies. They're mostly outliers, and we haven't really seen a lot of it in Miami. And for sure, it hasn't gone to the point where it's affected prices. So I haven't seen, for instance, in a Lennar community that they'll sell 50 of 100 houses to one company. Sometimes you'll have, a company buying 20 condos in a condo building, but not really large scale yet. Don't know if that's possible, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Great answer there. Okay, so let's talk about what George was talking about at the top of the webinar. Who's moving down here? Take a look at the out-of-state driver's licenses. Who's exchanging? This is from the Florida DMV. Take a look. So these are the numbers. Yes, New York is exchanging driver's license. New Jersey, California, Illinois. And the top 5 counties of most license swaps in 2021, Miami-Dade, number 1.
Right. And something else that we've just started to see and hear about, because, we're always getting the news a little bit later. I always like to ask my sellers and buyers that my agents, where they're going, and where they're coming from. And I especially do that with every appraisal, because with every appraisal, a lot of times it's veteran they're coming from. And these areas, out of those areas, we've always, like I said, had people retiring from New York, but from Illinois and California, not so much, and New Jersey. So now we're seeing a whole group of people that are interested in South Florida, and I got to tell you, Florida in general, because as I said, most of you can go and on the FAR website, and there's an article that came out yesterday. I got a notification. It's called Top U.S. Cities Relocating to Miami. And this just came out yesterday. And you're not going to be surprised that Miami was number 1. But what surprised me was that number 2 used to be Phoenix, where people are moving to from other parts of the country. But now it's Tampa. So Miami is number 1 and Tampa is number 2. Why is that important? Because it's all of Florida. Florida is the darling child. We just happen to live here. If I lived in Phoenix, I'd be saying, hey, Phoenix is fantastic. But it's good when the facts back you up. And the facts are everybody wants to come to Florida. So that's so important, because when you're sitting with your buyers, when you're sitting with your sellers, and they ask you the question, when are prices going to come down? The answer always has to be when people don't want to come to Florida. Because if the demand is still higher than the supply, then we've got a situation, a good situation in the near future. I just want, like I said before, for it to be kind of stable and not to go up 25% a year. That's really, I know it's good for our income, but it's not good long term. I would love to see like 6% a year, 7% a year would be really good. And then the salaries keep up with it, and the interest rate not going up too much. And then all of us would be busy. We would have inventory. We would be returning other realtors' calls, because a lot of us, a lot of gosh, I could go on about that, but it's really hard to get a hold of a realtor and show a property, because the realtors that have listings are inundated with offers. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, it is not good, healthy, or normal for a house to sell in a week. I know we all love that, but that's not good. As an appraiser, a normal market is 30 to 60 days. That is a normal market, not 2 weeks or a week.
No, it's a great point. And actually, there's an economist that I follow. I believe he's with Housing Wire, and he says when the days on market is a teenager, 13 or 14, that exactly, it's not good.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to remember that. It's got to be an old man like me, 65 days. That's good,
Okay, all right. So let's look at demographics. This is, as a realtor, very important to know. Who's going to be buying the homes in the future. Make sure you look at the demographics and take a look at Florida's population in 2020. Look at that red circle. Look at that. High percentage of Florida residents in the prime home buying years.
Right.
How big of an impact is this going to have, George?
Big. Very, very, very big impact in that, well, hopefully they want to buy homes. That's the first thing. We have to educate them, and I think most of them do want to. But okay. See, everything also is different for Florida, because I've got some of my agents online, and I know that Jorge Chavez is there. He just got back from Peru, and I have other agents that are from Chile, and they've been visiting Chile. And as you know, in all of South America, there's been great changes in the political arena. The landscape is changing there. So what happens, Chris, and this is an open question, what happens if in the next year or two, a lot of people from South America want to come and buy in Miami, and they don't care if they overpay a little bit? That's also not good either. I know realtors, and we all want prices to keep going up, but you've got people born abroad. You've got people born in other United States, but born in Florida. And I think I mentioned this to you at the beginning. Very few people that were born in Florida or South Florida or live in South Florida and sell their house are going to buy again in Miami. And this is exactly what I've been experiencing, that our demographics is changing. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. It's just, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying we as realtors should be the tip of the spear, and we should know this, because having this information will make us better realtors.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, so we talked about how, as a realtor, it's very important. It's important to know the macro, but it's probably more important to know the micro, like George was talking about, going down to your neighborhood. And here are some tools that you could use. SunStats, it's on the Miami Gateway. Make sure you guys are taking advantage of your Miami membership using SunStats. The Miami Realtor zip code reports that George was mentioning, thank you so much for highlighting that. Yes, and that's on sfmarketintel.com. Those zip code reports come every quarter. Every quarter, we do the zip code reports, city reports, and the next quarter should be next month is when we release the quarter stats. And the third one I have here is RPR on the Miami Gateway.
Right. And Chris, before you go to that page, I want to overemphasize that this is information that some of it we can't get in Matrix in the MLS. Like, for instance, you can go into these programs and you can find out in your customer's neighborhood how many cash sales there have been in the last 6 months or 3 months. Why is that important? Because if you know that there are cash sales and you can show that to your seller when you're doing a listing presentation, the seller's going to say, oh, wow, the other two realtors that I was talking to, they didn't even tell me anything about this. And you're telling me that 38% of the people that bought in the last 6 months were cash. This is something that the Miami Herald and all of these online news, they love calling the association to get this information. You guys can get it. And if you just copy down and visit, this is very, very easy to use. And by the way, the SunStats has these beautiful, very, very good looking graphics and charts that you can print in color. You can email them. You can provide them at your listing presentations. And also, they don't just do cities. They will also do neighborhoods. So like Kendall, I can do a report on RPR in Kendall and find out exactly what's been going on. And I'm just using cash sale as an example because I know you can't get that in Matrix, but it will do almost anything that you want to know about a neighborhood. And remember, the only difference between you and the next realtor is how much confidence your buyer or seller has in you. And the only way that they'll have confidence, unless it's your mom and dad or your brother, is for you to show them that you're a smart realtor, that you can provide value and you can provide a service that the other realtor maybe couldn't provide. And that's what's going to put you above and beyond. And what I want you to know is that the 3 programs here that Chris is talking about, not only do they do training on it, but they're very, very intuitive and easy to use. They're not complicated. So that's my plug.
Yeah, no, excellent plug. I love it. And yes, it's about, look, we got 60,000 members in the Miami Association. It's about separating yourself with information like this. RPR. This is what George was talking about. You can build this infographic creator on SunStats. Literally, I made this in 30 seconds. I don't know. It's very easy to make. You just put in the metrics that you want. You put in the city, your zip code, and you got a nice looking chart. You could access it in the gateway, and there's the link if you want to get it directly.
And it's easy to brand. It brands you. It puts your picture and all your information, so it looks custom made.
Yeah. Easy to share on social media. Okay, so let's take a look at new pending sales, best indicator of future closed sales. Get a preview on what's, and it's looking like sales will be down again. When we come back in a month from now, as you can see, pending sales are down across the board for Broward as well, for Palm Beach, for Martin. Okay, dollar volume. So George had talked about this, the importance of knowing about dollar volume. Sum of all sale prices in a given time period. Yes. Oh, George, I missed this question I have for you. I don't know if you wanted to, going back to the SunStats, are there other ways Miami members can leverage the micro data that you wanted to mention?
Well, we haven't talked much about about rentals, and I will say something that you may want to try with these stats is that the putting this together with something like the hometown hero. The rents have reached an amount now that you can almost buy a house with the down payment. So if you're looking at paying for rent $12,000, $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, you've got to come up with first month, last month, and 1 month deposit. You're already at $9,000, $12,000. So if you go FHA and you're paying 3%, you can get into a $400,000 house with $10,000, $12,000, and then the hometown hero will give them the other $20,000, $25,000 to buy. So not everybody can qualify. Only 50 professions, but it doesn't have to be. Both people don't have to be a teacher, or both people don't have to be a firefighter. So how do you use this to make money? How can I leave you with an idea where you can say, hey, I spent an hour listening to this guy. How can I make some money? Call, not a mortgage broker, call your lender, whoever you like to use, because I don't think a mortgage broker qualifies, and ask them to send you the hometown hero flyer that they use, and then advertise on social media and just put in there, call me to see if you qualify for this program, because you may get up to $25,000 to help you buy a house, and you're going to get leads. So I think it's a good little thing to use to try to get not just advertising a property. Let's say you're advertising one of your listings. You want more people to call. Put that as your last picture, that flyer that says, hey, not only am I selling this house, but I can also tell you a little bit about this new program that you can get down payment assistance. Not down payment, I'm sorry, closing cost assistance.
Great job. Yes. And, with rents going up like that. Yeah. If you're that close to being a home buyer, it makes sense to go ahead and purchase that home with the hometown heroes that George has mentioned there. Okay. So let's get back to dollar volume. Let's check out these stats. Miami-Dade, $2.8 billion. Broward, take a look at Broward. Broward is up 10% year over year, $1.9 billion, $2.3 billion. This is just in 1 month. Palm Beach and Martin County. And George, just we have mentioned is just how powerful real estate is, but these are the numbers to back it up. And just could you talk about the economic impacts of a typical home sale, and how many industries are impacted after?
Chris, this is by far my favorite subject, by far. Now, remember, I want to underline what Chris said. This is monthly, so it's amazing. It's amazing, the dollar volume. But years ago, I read about this phenomena called the butterfly effect. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, or if anybody's ever heard of it. Basically, what it says is that a group of butterflies in Africa flapping their wings makes small little changes in the atmosphere that can then create large changes in other geographic areas thousands of miles away. And what a realtor has, and this is not theoretical, is the butterfly effect. Whenever you sell a home, you generate over $100,000 to $150,000 in ancillary business. What do I mean by that? People, 112,000 is what NAR has. You sell a home, and people will go out and they will buy furniture. They will go to the Home Depot. They will get a fencing company. So you create, I think the average is you create 5 jobs, whether it's the gardener now has a new place to cut grass, and you positively affect the economic base of your city. But it's even better than that, because there we're talking about money. Whenever a realtor sells a home to a person that has been renting, that has children, it has been over the years verified that the children coming from rentals into a home where the parents live do better in math scores, and they do better in reading scores. The Clinton administration had a very big, that you can get it online. You can just type in Clinton through HUD. They did a very big report, and then it's a very big report and explains the whys and the ifs, and they found that there's less gang relation on the home, and they figured out that because it's a stable environment and the parents are happy, that translates to the kids are happy. So when the parents are happy and the kids are happy and they go to school, they learn better. So what you guys do is a big deal.
Excellent. And that's very important. And make sure that we remember that the power of our industry.
Yes. Realtors and teachers, very important.
Realtors and teachers, I love it. Okay. First of all, thank you guys for sticking on with us. We still have 23 participants. Thank you. We appreciate it. I know we've gone over the hour, but we're almost there at the end. George, you mind sticking on for a little bit until?
No, I'll be happy to stick on. And hey, I would love for you to do something on that 1004 MC because it segues here on the trends. The 1004 MC will work very well with the Sun Stats because they can take the Sun Stats and then they can go into Matrix. They can do the members can do a 1004 MC on their neighborhood. Like if it's a condo building, they can do just the condo and they can say, okay, together with the Sun Stats, we've had this happened 3 months ago, this happened, and then it gives you just how much per year. So like that 15% that it's gone up in the condo, that's your neighborhood, or in the townhouse community or in the single family community, it might be a different number. You can get that number using the Sun Stats together with the 1004 MC. That's what appraisers do. So it would be good for you to segue on that someday.
Yeah, no, it's a great tool. Yes, I will look into that. So
I'll hang on.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Well, we still have a couple more slides if you just to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Months of supply. We could go through these a little bit faster. This is how you would calculate them, but let's get into the stats. For months of supply, 2.4 months overall. Single family is at 2.2 months, which was the same as this point last year. Important to note. And condos at 2.5 months. So this is a stat that everybody's talking about, Georgia, inventory. And
right.
So maybe we're starting to see a little bit more inventory coming. As you can look at the single family is at 2.2 months, and you'll see a little bit more when we get to the active listings. Broward, the months of supply has increased for single family. Condos is down. Palm Beach has increased slightly. And Martin is very small community, small county. And so when you're talking about luxury, there is 5.5 months of supply in Miami-Dade luxury, but hopefully we are seeing that change. Georgia, on inventory, you have mentioned this already, but what are you seeing on the inventory front? You think with the higher rates, we might see more inventory as we go later on the year?
Yes, and every price point or sector will be affected a little bit differently. It wouldn't surprise our members to know that the inventory will be different for $500,000 homes than it is for $3 million homes. But I do have a little bit of difference with the median of 5.5 for the luxury homes because it really depends on the neighborhood. What you guys are seeing here is good information because overall it tells you a median in Miami-Dade of homes over $1 million, 5.5. But there are homes, like I mentioned, in Shenandoah that they're selling in less than 30 days. So, and they're selling over $1 million. So what you need to do is when you're really interested in a certain neighborhood and you're trying to tell, and the customer asks you a question, Mr. Realtor, you're the local professional. How long will it take to sell my property? You can go in the days on market in Matrix, but then what I advise you to do is also do a 1004 MC because the 1004 MC not only gives you every month what the trend of the prices has been, but it will also give you the days on market. So you could actually sit with your seller and say, look, give me a listing for 6 months, but I think I'll be able to sell it for you in 3 months. And that's good information for you to know.
Excellent. Great job, George. So let's move on. This was the months of supply by price point that Georgia talked about and how, yes, it differs, and it differs even more when you go to the neighborhoods. This was a graphic that was shot each quarter. These are the hot markets, the lowest supply. I'll go through these a little bit faster because I know we're over. Here's Broward. These, by the way, are on sfmarketintel.com. We also post them on social media. If you guys could follow and also share. All right, active inventory. This is what I wanted to get to. This is very important. You know, a lot of talk here about inventory coming to the market. And so Miami-Dade is down 33%. But you know what? We're coming off the all-time lows, I believe, because this number was minus 45. So now we're minus 33. So, and you could start to see hopefully some inventory coming back. And look at Palm Beach. Palm Beach is almost even with last year.
Right. And I think that's going to continue, Chris. We're starting to see it with our members and our agents that there's a little bit more supply. It's not as crazy as it was 6 months ago. Exactly. So I think that's going to continue, and that's a good thing.
It's a great thing, yes. Get some more balance to the market. All right, median percent of original price received. So this has always been like 99, 100%, but obviously you guys know that you got to go over in this incredible market. Median time to contract, we talked about this, how Miami-Dade is a teenager, 18 days, Broward's at 12, Palm Beach 10. So hopefully in the months to come, those numbers will grow.
Yeah.
And this was just a summary, what we've gone through so far. Real estate is, I haven't mentioned this exactly, but it's propped up the economy during the pandemic. Mortgage rates forecasted to land at 5.3% by the end of the year. Higher rates should lead to more days on market, fewer bidding wars. And this is just a summary of what we've all talked about. SunStats. This is the infographic creator that you can make on SunStats. Didn't mention this, but we have our international study that we do every year. If you guys want to know which countries are buying in South Florida, which states are buying in South Florida, MiamiRealtors.com/global. And this is an example of the reports that we have on sfmarketintel.com. An example of our infographics and videos. These are the zip code reports. RPR, we talked about that. Oh, this one we should mention, you guys, if any members out there, thank you for the 22 participants still on, appreciate it. If you have a question on any of the services, RPR, SunStats, these are the people that will help you. You could this is the phone number to contact them. They're great with email. Send them an email. They also have a great YouTube channel where they explain all the services. And this is an example of the classes that we have. This was something I put into the chat. This is members, if they're looking at who is looking at Miami properties, which counties, which out-of-state counties. Number 1 is Virginia. Number 2 is New York. Number 3 is Atlanta. But George, when you're looking at this, as a realtor, you want to leverage this rankings. You could do some Google advertising, right? Some Facebook advertising.
Absolutely. These are stats that you can only get from your association. You can only get this from your association. They actually count all the clicks and eyeballs that people are coming into Miami Association and checking. So you know exactly where your customers are coming from, and then you can market there. So that's great.
Great. Thank you for all the comments. Bruno, Anka, thank you. Thank you for all the comments. We appreciate it. And it's very easy to this widget. You just put in the different counties. What I find interesting here, we'll always look at is take a look at the views from other states. The red number here is 25.3%, right? This is Miami-Dade. But as we go north, there's more people looking from out of state in Broward. You go to Palm Beach, even more at 37.8%. And Martin County, you get 39.3% of the views are from another county, from out of state. Here's my information. If you want to send me an email. And here's a look at our social media channels. And George, you were an all-star. You're a superstar. Thank you for spending all the time with us today. I took down a lot of notes and I learned a lot, and I know you helped our members.
Chris, I truly enjoyed being with you and the members. I love talking about this because even though we've got challenges, it's really great. We're in paradise. Miami and Florida are just great. So we just have to keep doing what we're doing. If NAR is correct and the interest rate stays below 6% by the end of the year, everybody's going to stay busy. And we've got lots of superstars that took their hour and 25 minutes to sit and listen to us, and they're going to go and they're going to execute and they're going to do great.
Excellent. That's a great job. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back next month.